What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Zamboni. I am an herbalist and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you, as always. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sending this to a friend. Thank you for hitting that little save button in the corner. Thank you for sending me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. This is continuously very, very helpful for me. You can always get a reading. You can always join the Patreon. These are good ways to support and get some extra content or stuff for yourself. With that out of the way, let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So last week I said that it wasn't a super big deal and that but it was going to be stuff moving into position. This week it's the big deal that we got into position for. So one of the main things that's going to happen this week is the sun is going to move into Capricorn. Sun does this every time this year. This is called the solstice. Ursula Le Guin called this sun return, which I'm really into. In the northern hemisphere, it is the darkest time, and so we're coming to a point where the sun is going to start coming back. We're going to start having longer days. This is the shortest day of the year, yada yada. You already know this stuff. So the sun is going to move into Capricorn. Now, this prompts the feasts of Saturnalia and these kinds of things. The sun is going to be in two Saturn signs right in a row. It's going to be Capricorn and then next Aquarius. And so the sun is going to be feeling Saturn-y kind of feelings for a little while. Capricorn is going to be an especially important area of the zodiac for of some months. We're looking at, 3 months or something like this, until March 6th is when Venus and Mars will finally get out of there. And so we're looking at a long period of emphasis on the Capricorn things. Also, the other thing that's happening is, like right now, as I'm recording this, Venus is stationing retrograde. So Venus has been conjunct Pluto for a good long time and is stationing retrograde in Capricorn, going to continue to be conjunct Pluto for a good long time. So I've spoken at some length about Venus, Pluto, and Venus in Capricorn and Venus retrograde. These things, I feel like we're really getting into territory around vulnerability. What does it mean to be vulnerable? And I have found myself sort of existing somewhere in the between on that. So one of the main things that I find over and over again in this work is a sense of like, there's no real answer or solution to what's going on. There's this kind of continuous existing along the thread of tension. And so with Venus retrograde is, so a common story that is told around Venus retrograde or with Venus Pluto, this happens to be a Venus retrograde with Pluto. So in either of those cases, then we'll talk about Persephone. And so Persephone quickly is, she's this goddess who is beautiful and used to all the beautiful things. She's the daughter of Ceres. The name Ceres is also used for the word cereal, which means grains. And so we're talking about grains growing and flourishing and life and beauty and this kind of stuff, right? So Persephone is the beautiful daughter of Ceres. They're hanging out in the field one day, and Ceres is like looking the other way. And then the earth opens up, the earth splits open, and Hades comes out. Hades is another name for Pluto. Hades is the name of both the deity and which oversees, as well as the space, which is the underworld. Hades is the name for both of those things. Hades comes out of this split in the earth, comes and takes Persephone with him. Some folks call it a kidnapping. Some folks give Persephone a little more agency. I'm not going to say exactly what happened there. All I know is that she went with him, right? So we went down into the underworld, and Persephone is not allowed to bring with her the things that are that have normally kept her afloat in the land of the living and the gods. We're talking about protective talismans. We're talking about clothing. We're talking about any of these kind of protective spells which might have been on her as the daughter of this goddess. All of that stuff is gone. right? And so she has to go down into the underworld and deal with underworldly kind of things, the things that are kind of macabre, that dealing with death, dealing with regeneration and transformation, dealing with compost, things that smell bad, dealing with, you know, all of the sort of dodgier things that exist in the world. We can think maybe about the wild adversary or something like that. So if we're sort of like moving through this space and moving through that space without even clothing to protect us, then there's something here about, and if we're always thinking about Venus and matters of the heart going together, feelings, emotions, the way that we sort of experience pleasure in the world, the way that we talk about Venus is as experiencing pleasure, but more and more I'm finding that pleasure and pain are kind of like they're two sides of the same coin. They exist together. I've been thinking a lot about itches recently, and sort of like if you have an itch and then you go to scratch it, then you like inflict a certain amount of pain on yourself, and that feels so delicious, right? That is the kind of thing that we're looking at here as we sort of dip into Venus retrograde, Venus Pluto territory, right? And so what is often said about this kind of thing is, the engaging vulnerability in some kind of way sort of speaks to this deeper and profound strength or power, which is possible if you sort of like allow yourself to be vulnerable and be soft and to eschew your shame and this kind of thing, right? Shouts to Brene Brown and Daring Greatly on that, right? So that is kind of one side of the spectrum that I find myself on. The other side of that same spectrum, or we can think about this thread of tension that I kind of feel like I need to like surf, or the image that's coming to mind is skateboarding, like grinding along this tension. I'm not a skateboarder, but that's stay with me here, right? So the other side of that is dealing with things that are actually very dangerous, right? With Venus Pluto, we might be thinking about danger as fun or pleasure. We might be thinking of obsession or addiction or jealousy. Power dynamics show up really strong here. And not just power dynamics, but like the way that things are controlled. I think about puppet strings, that sort of stuff showing up here. And so we're in a legitimately dangerous period of time, or dealing with a legitimately dangerous set of relationships or something like this. There's a rapper, Bia, who I really like, who has this song that goes, crushing up the drugs with the same hands that I fist to pray with. I can't trust these niggas that I lay with. Too stuck in my ways, I think I'm jaded. I cannot afford to be complacent. And that kind of attitude really speaks to me during this time. There's like this idea of like, I can't trust even the people that I lay with, the people who are sort of like, who get into my most vulnerable spaces. I still can't trust that because these niggas are dangerous or something like this. And so there's something here that is really salient, you know what I mean? So we've got the Brene Brown, like open up and be heartfelt and vulnerable or whatever on the one side. And then there's the other side of like, there's actual danger here at the same time. I don't know how to engage that properly. And what I am finding here is that we're at the beginning of this story, right? And so Venus is going to station retrograde right now and is going to move back for a period of 40 days and 40 nights. And then we're going to get a Venus station direct at the end of January and move forward through this whole process. So we're right at the very beginning of it right now. And there's still a lot to see with this whole process. So Venus and Pluto are in Capricorn. Mercury is also in Capricorn. This is interesting because if we think of Mercury as a psychopomp figure, as the ferryman, right? The one who takes souls from this side of the river Styx, if you're into that, or the border between the living and the dead. The ferryman who takes us from this side to that side. This is Mercury, right? And so to see Mercury in the same area where we're dealing with all these underworld themes and this sort of stuff, then this is particularly interesting. The sun is also here at the same time. And so there's this strong emphasis on what's going on in Capricorn. So let's take a look at who rules Capricorn. That's Saturn. This week, Saturn is mutually applying with Uranus, and so Uranus is retrograde in Taurus and is making a square to Saturn, who is direct in Aquarius, and so they are mutually applying to each other. They are approaching square. And this is all of that same Saturn Uranus stuff that we've been talking about all year, right? Saturn wants to make it intelligible. Saturn wants to make it efficient, organization of systems, making order and intelligibility out of a potentially chaotic world. That's what Saturn seeks to do. This is why Saturn gives us such things as borders or parameters or structures or things like this. Clear parameters are a good way to make sure that we can that it is even possible for us to succeed in the first place, because there are clear parameters for what's going on. Uranus is like, fuck all that, and wants to, I think about, moving goalposts, not even necessarily because of like bad actors who like want you to fail or something like that. It's like there are earthquakes, and the goalposts as a result of that had been over there but have now moved over here, right? There's this question of like, what is real, or what are the parameters of reality, and if there, and also we can think about Saturn as authority figures or the managers of some sort, right? So the managers have some feelings about what is real, or what is the right thing to do, or what actually exists in the world. And then Uranus and Taurus is like, no, I don't accept this at all. I would prefer to be free rather than to be safe. Or secure. There's liberation is so deeply inherent with the way that Uranus wants to operate, and especially Uranus and Taurus in a fixed sign, square to Saturn in a fixed sign. There's this sort of like the basic nature of what we think is real or normal has to see some major updates, and it's I've been saying over and over, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So we're at a point where this kind of innovation is the only option if we're going to continue to eat, if we're going to continue to make money, if we're going to continue to do these kind of Taurus things, right? If we're going to continue to find beauty or deliciousness in the world, then the way that we approach that is going to have to go through some changes, because the world is simply different now than it had been before. This doesn't necessarily mean that that life is no longer made of carbon, or some of these kind of basic truths about what's going on in the world, but we can sort of the way that we approach all of these things, the way that we approach living in the world, has been a certain way for a little while, and now as a result of the continuous dynamics, which we can talk about climate change or something like this. We could talk about markets. We could talk about the authoritarian versus anti-authoritarian movements. We could talk about all this sort of stuff as being encapsulated in this wider moment that's taking place here, and having to adjust our sense of what is real and what is worth engaging with as a result of those major tectonic shifts, which are happening on the regular. So I am out of time here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for chilling with me. Thank you for being here on the regular. Thank you for sending me a tip. Thank you for getting a reading. I always love talking to you guys, because you've been listening for so long, and there's so much I don't know, there's a community going on here, and I love it, and I love getting to talk to you guys. If you want to if you want to join my Patreon, then I have a regular community meeting where we get to talk, and we sort of actively generate the world that we want to live in. If you want to check that out, patreon.com/ZamboniFunk. You can always go to ZamboniFunk.com and find me there. Make sure and follow me. Make sure and send this video to a friend if it resonated with you. Thank you so much for being here. I super appreciate y'all, and I'll check you next time. Bye.